Shalom. Shalom. Before I begin, I want to give all praises to Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushua, Ba'ashem Achah, Kwadash, and the bonus to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone, and Shalom to the Ayah teaching this word throughout the four corners, in true sincerity. Back with the lesson, to sent by Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushua. Lord, will be edifying us as the elect. Alright, the true name of God is Yahweh, which means He is, or He exists. The name of His Son, who the world calls Jesus, His name is Yahweh Shai, which means He saves or He delivers. Alright, and the topic of this lesson is just me going into, proving the fact how America is losing, its power. Okay, this strong nation, this hammer, this bully, has been losing its strength. Alright, and it has been happening over, and you've been seeing it over the course, of this war with, Israel, Iran, and America. All right, how America came in unprepared. They thought it was gonna be a swift action, and now, you have Trump, scrambling, making stories up. Iran making, memes and jokes about how this place is gonna be destroyed, and making videos how America is going to be, destroyed. How America is going to be defeated by the Iranians. And who would have thought? Okay, who would have thought? Because, this place is called the Virgin Daughter, but it says, that it will sit in the dust in Isaiah 47. And when it says, come down and sit in the dust, O virgin daughter of Babylon, and sit on the ground, there is no throne. And that does represent confusion, right? So this place is likened unto a virgin, because this nation, this great city, comprised of its wicked citizens, has never seen, a sorrow. To be honest, they have never seen, a state where this place is likened unto a third world country. They never went through nothing like that. So, this place never really got touched. All right, now, and that's where that pride comes from, where they think they just can do whatever they want and nobody's able to, defeat them. But, you got it all wrong, buddy. All right, this is more than just a regular war. This is, spiritual. All right, this is in the Bible prophecy. It talks about how Israel will drag America into a war, but it's also to the fulfillment of Yahweh Shema Shai's will to make America, desolate. This is just a catalyst, to it. All right, so World War III, because that's what it's leading up to. It's not just a regular, like how it was in Venezuela. They hop in, swift action, come in, take control and leave. Nah, this is all right. Time. This is gonna take time. Okay, it says, "O daughter of the Chaldean, for thou shalt no more be called tender and delicate." He said, take the millstones and grind meal and cover thy locks, and make better lug and cover the thigh, pass over the rivers. And it's been very spiritual. How things been going on. First you had, the expose on Epstein. Or I'm just gonna say it plain. You had the expose on Epstein. All right, he started being exposed to who he truly is, and now, all right, we go into a war, and now they getting their ass beat. It's like America's just being, getting hit, with body shots, body shot after body shot after body shot, showing you how the infrastructure of this place is, falling. All right, what I was gonna say, the military, the economy, the spirit of the people. This place is, through. The scriptures talk about how the mirth of the land is gone. This shit is done. All right, this place is done spiritually. All right, now we're just waiting for the full, the full implement of the destruction of this place physically. By 200 million warheads, and it is gonna come. All right, it is gonna come. Then it's gonna be said. All right, then it's gonna be said, how's this? Like I said in Isaiah 14, I ain't trying to butcher it. All right, but I'm gonna get it after I finish reading this. It says, thy nakedness shall be uncovered. All right, thy shame shall be seen. Right, you have, these nations seeing things that America has done. Iran making videos again of, Epstein. I seen what, America, has done with little children. All right, with women and boys. All right, but everything is being brought forth. Okay, you cannot deny. All right, what conspiracy theories and what the prophet's been saying for years is right in your face. All right, but it's again, coming into, the topic, how this place is falling, how this place is, through. Because these things were looked at as, conspiracy theories. Nobody believed it. All right, now it's right in your face. It's been exposed. Because Esau would, more than likely keep these things a secret, but it's just slipped out of his hands. All right, it's the Lord doing it, showing you the wicked is being revealed, and now the wicked is being judged. The wicked is having his kingdom get stripped away from him slowly. It says, as for your Redeemer, the Lord Yahweh of hosts is his name, the Holy One of Israel. And hey, the Lord Yahweh Shimon Shai. Oh, Slakia, I skipped. It says, yea, that shame shall be seen. I will take vengeance and I will not meet thee as a man. So, going to when Yahweh Shai returns. He's not coming how he came, the first time lowly. Alright. Okay. He's not coming at like in that fashion as a man. He's coming like a godlike power. Alright, ready to judge, ready to go to war. Alright, with these different nations that has been, coming against, his anointed and the same nations that came against him. Alright, and those Roman soldiers that pierced him. Alright, Yahushua's, like he says, his vengeance in his heart. Alright, he's been meditating about, alright, him returning and judging, alright, America. Okay? And judging America. Alright, you be like, no, that's not why the Lord is coming back. Yes, it is. That's the truth of the matter. Okay? That's the truth of the matter. Isaiah 14, 10, it says, all they shall speak and say unto thee, art thou also become weak as we? Art thou become like unto us? Right? So America has lost his grip, his I want a word to match its aura of being the strongest nation. Now they have become weak and the nations see it. Or you had nations talking about teaming up with Russia. Whoa, right? American allies talking about teaming up with Russia. All right, that's big news. That's, according to prophecy. How these nations will come against America. How the peace shall hate the whore. Okay, but many focus on these other, smaller nations. Or that's not as strong as America. Saying like, well, America, they're becoming weak as us. All right, because you never would have thought that Iran would have posed such a threat, to America to bring them to this point where they're like America is just getting their ass beat. All right, no signs of winning, just getting beat. Okay, just getting beat. Just letting you know the times that we in. Right? It's just like Pomp, going to his pride is brought down to the grave. And the noise of thy vows, worm is spread under thee, and the worms cover thee. Worms can, go into, decay. Right? Because when a animal or a body, dies, what happens? You have worms that come out of it. All right, in America, as you can see, it's like you can see the worms, come out of this. So spiritually, this place is, decomposing. All right, it's decomposing. All right, till it's physically, when then it's gonna be made, all right, desolate. But as you can see, the nations is seeing that America is not, what it used to be. All right, that's why it continues on and says, "How art thou fallen from heaven, O Lucifer?" Lucifer goes into, that actual. People think it's Satan. No, it's not. But going to the Illuminati, the elites. But it says, "How art thou fallen from heaven, O Lucifer, son of the morning? How art thou cut down to the ground?" All right, so it's like, so it's asking, It's like when you have somebody so great, and it's like how did this happen? Like, it was never expected. All right, for Esau Edom to fall from his seat of rulership. Like it says, how did I fallen from heaven? Because he was in a high seat, right? So it's like, how did this happen? How did he fall from this seat? All right, because he was been a wicked ass nigga. It's as simple as that. He's been prideful, all right, and the Lord just puffed him up, all right. The Lord, he got puffed up, but it's the Lord that made him like that, all right. That gave him this power, but it was only for a season. But now, this season is coming to a close. All right, it says, which did is weaken the nations, right? What did is weaken the nations, but now he's not weakening, all right, Iran, right? He's not weakening Iran, all right? Iran is moving, boldly. All right, they got the morale, they hype. All right, they're not weakened. Okay? They're not weakened. All right, people thought that we was going to sweep into Iran and it was going to be quick. We will talk about how we spend all this money on military, etc., etc. All right, where that money at? That money just going to waste. Money just going to waste. Iran has the upper hand. All right, one more precept in Jeremiah 50. Jeremiah 50 and 23. It says, how is the hammer of the whole earth cut asunder and broken? How is Babylon become a desolation among the nations? Again, how? Like, how? All right, do we have about Shimei Shai? All right, it says, I have laid a snare for thee. All right, a trap. Thou art also taken, old Babylon, going into America's Babylon to represent America. I was not aware, right? Because America's so fucking proud and thought nobody was going to take him down. Right? Iran happened to be, let's put Iran in that situation. Iran happened to be that snare, that trap. That it's like that they thought they was going to go into and have a victorious, ending. All right, it says, thou was not aware. Thou art found and also caught because thou hast striven against the Lord Yahweh Shimei Shai. So, because, you were found caught, right? It's because you was not aware of it because you came against, God, basically. All right, as a punishment. All right. Now, this will lead to your destruction. All right. It says, the Lord Yahweh had opened his armory and had poured and brought forth the weapons of his indignations. For this is the work of the Lord Yahweh, Yahweh Shemel Shah, God of hosts, in the land of the Chaldeans. So those will open that armory. All right. I think them little missiles that they shooting now or something. Just wait. All right, for 200 million, warheads to be shot from these different nations to touch down here in America. All right, this is I don't even want to say the beginning because America even get shot at, but this is like an inkling. All right, an inkling because it's about to get way worse. All right, well, with that alone, this lesson was at a final. I want to give all praises to Yahweh, Bashim, Ashah, Bashim, Gakudash. Give honor to the apostle, Elder Great Millstone, and shalom to the icon teaching his word. At the four corners, and show sincerity. Shalom.